Boardroom of Aethelgard Global sat on the 102nd floor, a glass-walled cage suspended above a city of fog. The table was a 20-foot slab of polished obsidian, reflecting the grim faces of the directors. The air was pressurized and sterile, smelling of expensive cologne and the cold ozone of a coming storm. At the head of the table sat Sloane. She was the architect of the company's recent $12 billion expansion, dressed in a sharp royal blue power suit with matching silk blouse. Her presence was centered, calm, and utterly immovable. Standing opposite her was Silas, the chairman of the board. He was a man who viewed the company as his personal fiefdom, and today he wore a bold red silk tie and a matching pocket square that looked like a slash across his chest. He wasn't sitting. He was hovering, his hands planted firmly on the obsidian table. "Sloane, let's skip the pleasantries," Silas sneered, his voice echoing in the acoustically perfect room. "The board has reviewed your vision for the decentralized logistics hub. We decided it's too radical and too expensive. As of 9 a.m., your contract is terminated for cause. You're not just out of job. You're being stripped of your equity. You have 10 minutes to clear your desk before security escorts you to the freight elevator." The justice debt had been mounting for months, but it reached a fever pitch this morning. When Sloane had arrived at the lobby, her access badge had already been flagged. Vance, the head of security and a loyalist to Silas, was waiting for her, wearing a red armband over his suit. "The VIP elevators are restricted today, Sloane." Vance had smirked, blocking her path. "Chairman's orders. If you want to get to the 102nd floor, you can take the service lift with the trash. It's more your speed anyway." Sloane had complied, riding up in the slow, rattling metal box, her royal blue suit a stark contrast to the grimy walls. Inside the boardroom, the humiliation was choreographed. Cassandra, the CFO, sat to Silas's right, wearing a bold red blazer. She had spent the last hour distributing a falsified report to the other directors, Leland and Sterling, who both sported red silk ties. "It's a shame, really," Cassandra whispered, her voice dripping with artificial pity. Sloane was a decent manager, but she lacked the pedigree for a global chair. She thought she could lead us because she built the infrastructure. She forgot that we own the infrastructure. Leland let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Look at her. She's still wearing that blue suit, like she's the one in charge. Sloane, darling, you're a ghost. You just haven't realized the house has been sold yet. Silas, show her the door before she stains the upholstery." Silas leaned over the table, his face inches from Sloane's. "You're done, Sloane. You built a kingdom, but you forgot to lock the gates. Now, get out before I have Vance physically remove you in front of the entire lobby." Sloane didn't move. She didn't blink. She simply looked at the digital clock embedded in the obsidian table. 9:05 a.m. The justice debt was now fully matured. "You're right about one thing, Silas," Sloane said, her voice a low, resonant blue. "I did build the kingdom, but I didn't forget to lock the gates. I just changed the locks this morning." Silas let out a sharp, dismissive bark of laughter. He adjusted his bold red tie, looking around the table for approval. "Change the locks? Sloane, you're delusional. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a corporate entity. Your login was deactivated 3 minutes ago. You have zero authority in this room." "Actually, Silas," Sloane replied, reaching into her royal blue jacket and pulling out a slim, matte black glass cylinder, a physical hardware key for a sovereign server. "My login wasn't deactivated. The Sloane account you deleted was a decoy. The entire Aethelgard infrastructure, the logistics hubs, the satellite arrays, and the bank accounts, doesn't run on the corporate server. It runs on the Ethel core, which I hold the patent for personally." She placed a cylinder on the obsidian table. It pulsed with a rhythmic royal blue light. "I didn't just build the infrastructure. I leased it to the company," Sloane continued, her voice cutting to the rising panic like a blade. "Clause 22.4 of the Master Lease Agreement states that in the event of a hostile leadership displacement without just cause, the lease terminates immediately. Since you just fired me for cause based on Cassandra's falsified data, you've triggered a fundamental breach." Cassandra's face turned a shade of pale that made her bold red blazer look like a wound. She frantically tapped at her laptop, but the screen only showed a spinning blue circle. The system is not responding. The accounts are empty. The accounts aren't empty, Sloane corrected, leaning back. They've been swept into a holding trust. Aethelgard Global currently has zero operating capital, zero access to its own data, and no legal right to inhabit this building. You haven't fired me, Silas. You just uncoupled yourself from the life support system. The power shift was followed by a chilling silence as the boardroom lights shifted from warm amber to a clinical royal blue. The massive digital screens on the wall, which usually showed the company's global reach, now displayed a single list. Termination notices. I'm exercising my right as the primary creditor, Sloane announced. Silas, Sterling, Leland, and Cassandra. As of this second, your board seats are vacated for gross negligence and breach of fiduciary duty. You are no longer leadership. You are trespassers. The double doors of the boardroom hissed open. Vance, the security chief who had mocked her in the lobby, stood there looking stunned. Behind him was a team of federal marshals in deep navy windbreakers. Vance! Silas screamed, pointing at Sloane. Get her out of here. Use force if you have to. Vance then moved towards Sloane. He looked at the marshals, then at his own red armband, and slowly ripped it off. The marshals are here for the forensic audit. Silas, the chairman's codes didn't work on the security doors. Sloane's codes did. The humiliation became public. Sloane tapped the glass cylinder on the table, and the glass walls of the boardroom, which were usually opaque from the outside, suddenly became transparent. Every employee in the open plan office on the 102nd floor stopped to watch. The directors were forced to stand as the marshals began seizing their devices. Sterling tried to hide his phone, but a marshal firmly took it, placing it in a navy blue evidence bag. Leland began to stammer an apology, but Sloane didn't even look at him. Sterling, Leland, Sloane said, as the directors were led toward the service elevator they had mocked her for using. I'm sure you'll find the freight lift quite spacious. It's the only one still operating under my override. The last to leave was Silas. He stood at the door, his red tie crooked, looking back at the woman in the royal blue suit who now sat alone at the head of the obsidian table. You can't run this company alone, Sloane, he hissed. I'm not alone, Sloane replied, gesturing to the hallway where the department heads were already lining up to receive their new blue access badges. I just purged the dead weight. Now get out of my chair. By 10 a.m., the Aethelgard logo on the building's exterior was being replaced with simplified royal blue crest. Sloane watched in the window as the directors were escorted to the curb, their high-priced cars blocked by the federal transport vans. She had been fired in front of the board, but she was the only one who walked out with the keys to the kingdom.